I tell you, it's been a long time since we posted anything on the Woodworker channel. Some of my long-time viewers know it's I've got recurring health problems, and that's always a factor. Health's had me down, and I certainly can't work like I used to could. For the folks that don't know, I'll tell a little bit about it, kind of an explanation here. About 3 years ago, I had a heart attack, and I just found out recently that there's more damage there from that heart attack than they originally thought, and it's affected my ability to work here in the shop, how many hours I can put in and how long I can stay on my feet. And I've got other medical problems too that affect my feet and legs, and so that makes it tough to stay on my feet and legs for very long at a time. So anyhow, I've had that big job going on. It's the biggest one that I'd ever had here in the Woodworker shop, and I took that job on. I took that job on before I realized how bad a condition my heart was actually in, and I was feeling better when I took that thing. And I've never turned down good work. I've turned down some work, but never turned down good work, and this was good work, and there was a lot of it. So we just have finished it up, and I started on this woodworking stuff for this house back last December. So been all this long time it's been a going on there, but I finally got done with it. So I wanted to jump in here and shoot just a little bit and let everybody know what was going on, and I'm going to talk about some frame and panel doors right here just a little bit today to have something to look at. I've had a bunch of questions, and a huge number of questions from the subscribers. The subscribers has increased it's tremendously. I didn't realize there'd be that much interest in in the things that I've done. But anyway, enough talking. I just want to let everybody know that it's coming back. I know I've said that a time or two in the video in the past, but there was always things coming up different. But gonna restructure here, and gonna have a whole lot more time to do more videos, and maybe we can shoot some videos on some projects that's of interest to you. So hang around. There's more coming. Okay, what we're going to do here, I'll demonstrate how to cut the ends on the rails. Now the rails, I may have told earlier in the video, but when you got a door frame, the rails is the top and bottom pieces that run horizontal, and the stiles is the ones that run vertical. So first we cut the end profile, because we're cutting cross grain here on this rail. Then after we get that cut, then we're going to cut the edge grain down here, so you have a whole lot less chance of tear out. You tear out to come here. So if you cut this edge profile first, then it won't fit up against your backer. On this, what we're going to do is we're going to use a backer on this right here to keep it from tearing out this end grain when we run it through there. And I'm using a sled here. Some people use them, some don't. I do. Sometimes I don't. It depends on the profile I'm cutting, and am I cutting with a router bit or am I cutting with a shaper cutter? Now I have got an adapter in here, and I've got a router bit set up in this shaper. This is about as small a router bit as you would want to run in the shaper. The RPM on a shaper like this is about 10,000, and on high speed setting. And that's about as slow as you'd want to run these bits. When I make cabinet doors, I use the router bits a lot in the shaper, especially the panel raisers. You get that big bit, they work super good in the shaper. And if you're going to have a strange, odd profile that you don't use a whole lot, of router bits always cheaper than shaper cutters. I don't think they do quite as good. However, that's just an opinion, and they do great. But you get a big old panel raiser and a router table, you got to have a pretty good router to run it, or else you'll knock the bearings out of it. So anyway, I get this thing set up here and get it in this sled, and we'll make a cut across this end grain, and we'll see what I'm talking about. see there's our end grain cut. That's our profile on the end of our rail. Now when we cut this down the edge grain, it'll come down through here and it won't tire out. We'll go ahead and cut this on the other end here, and I'll take you over to the other setup and show you cutting the edge grain. Okay, and I know this is cheating a little bit, and the setup of these cutters, maybe I'll address that in another video. But the setup of these cutters should be probably a whole different video in of itself, is showing how to set these things up and get them set properly. So, but I've got two different stations. I had the other one in the shaper. Now this one here is in this router table. I got a big fluid router on the bottom of this thing, so it turns it just fine. So we'll cut the long grain on this and cut our other piece, and then we'll show you how this works and goes together. Okay, then you've got it. See, we still don't have the edge cut on this piece to mate right here. So let's cut that. Okay, now you can see how well it fits here. You put your glue on there, squeeze it with a clamp, and then you got your groove here for your panel, and that will be. I've already cut these panels here, but they'll go in here just like this, and that panel will float in there. I make mine about a 1/16 smaller than the groove. And sometimes I'll put just one little drop of glue on one side to keep it from rattling if the door gets there. But anyway, that'd be your rail and stile, and that's how your panel fits in there like that, and that gives you a panel door. These are just these actually test pieces, and I'm going to use these pieces for setup on the next setup of these cutters. But I had that question about how these things worked, and I wanted to show. And of course, your cutter cuts a 1/4 inch groove. You can use flat panels or you can use raised panels. If you use flat panels and you buy your plywood, if you don't buy a specialty plywood, then you won't get a true 1/4 inch plywood, and your panel will really rattle in here. So you can buy a specialized cutter for most rail and stile sets. It gives you a 5mm, 5.5mm, whatever it is, for a metric that fits the modern plywood. My lumber supplier carries MDF core plywood, and if you get whatever species you decide, you get veneered on each side, and the core is MDF, so it's extremely stable, and it's a true 1/4 inch, and it fits this groove just fine. So if you're making raised panels, doesn't matter. You cut your groove. You cut your tongue on your panels to fit your groove, whatever it happens to be. But if you're going to make flat panels, you either need to get 1/4 inch plywood or get a specialized cutter to cut the groove to fit your plywood. Okay, what we've got here, we're going to sand the edges. These are the doors that we made earlier, and I don't know if you can see. Kind of hard to show on the camera. even though we took care in putting these together, and we've got the rails and the stiles even here on the bottom, there's a little squeeze out of glue, and of course right there's if you can see it on the camera, right there's just a little place where it burn it just a little bit with a saw blade. Anyway, we want these edges pretty and smooth, no sanding marks. So I want to take these things to the big oscillating belt sander and sand the ends and the sides of them just to make them good and smooth before we put the decorative profile on the edge. That way the bearing on the bit rides smooth, and we make sure that we've got the rail and stile dead even and we don't have any wobble with it. So turn the camera around here and I'll show you how that works on the big old oscillating belt sander. One more thing I do want to mention before we do this. All we're trying to do is just take the sanding marks out of it. Like I said, we take a lot of care when we assemble the doors, and we wind up with the rail and stile here even. If you don't, you've got a problem. You've either got your door out of square or you got your pieces measured incorrectly. But what we're going to do here is just take the sanding marks out and make it smooth. If we needed to take some off, we take it over the table saw and saw it with saw blade first. That way you can keep it square. You use a sled or use a fence depending upon where you come off the side or the end of it. But if you needed to take more than just a little bit off, you need to take it off on a saw so you can keep your door square. Then you can come back here and take the sand marks out of it. So we're just gonna take the marks out. And I know it'd be extremely hard to see here on the camera, but now this is just as smooth as it can be. We've got a perfect match between the rail and stile right here, and it's really smooth. So now we can put the decorative edge on the door, depending upon whether it's going to be a standard door lip or it's going to be a round over. Whatever the customer decides is going to go on this door, that's what it'll be. So anyway, we've got the edges of the door smooth and ready to run through there and put them on there.